Iowa Live.
From the Carl Chevrolet Studios in West Des Moines, welcome to Iowa Live. I am Lou, and boy, it's always fun when we get a chance to visit with Kim Baer from the Baer Law Office. And today we're talking about something I'm sure everybody is aware of, Kim, because there's been commercials all over TV for the past, I don't know, how many years have they been on now?
Oh, gosh. You know, probably 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So, yes.
And what are we talking about?
So we're talking about mesothelioma. And the reason why we're talking about mesothelioma is because of the fact that you do see all the commercials, and it's really important for people to understand what is it and why is it important, and can I still make a claim?
Okay, so let's talk about what it is.
Yes.
What is it?
Okay, so mesothelioma is actually caused by, I think 80% of the cases are caused by inhaling asbestos. And so the way that you will come up with mesothelioma is you've worked in construction, you were a veteran, you worked on ships or airplanes or things like that, you worked in close to a boiler, maybe you were a firefighter, that type of thing. So you don't actually, a lot of times people think that you have to have been involved in removing asbestos or installing asbestos, and that's not really true, because up until I think about the 1980s, I mean, we made so many products in the United States out of asbestos. And so what we're seeing is, so people that have worked around asbestos, and they might not have even known they were working around it, they inhale those fibers. It will take 25, 30, 35, really as long as almost 40, 50 years to develop a tumor. And so what happens is you ingest it, it goes into your lungs, and it just kind of sits there. Sometimes it will go also to your abdomen, and so it sits there. And so when you're diagnosed with a lung cancer or cancer in your abdomen, there'll be some tests that need to be done to figure out whether or not it's asbestos caused cancer, which then would be mesothelioma.
Oh my goodness. Now you mentioned different products that had asbestos in it a long time ago, and you may have known it was there, but you didn't think anything of it. And some products that we're all familiar with right now, such as mechanics working with brake pads.
Yes,
wow.
brake pads, drywall. A lot of, I think 30% of the people that make claims for mesothelioma were in the service. So, and what happens is when people are diagnosed, so we're seeing people being diagnosed, you know, the last few years, and that will continue to go on. And when people are diagnosed, they're like, well, how are you going to prove it? How would you know how I got it? And you don't need to worry about that. The attorneys and the scientists have done all of the legwork on that. And so what we do is we go back through your job history to figure out where you worked, were you in the service. It's important to note, you may not have actually been the person that was doing the work. Maybe you were married to somebody, or maybe your dad worked in some type of an area. Because when you think about it, those fibers attach to your clothing. You come home, you take your clothing, you know, you would have taken your clothing off, and that disperses those particles into the air.
Never even thought about that.
Yes. So if you've had a diagnosis of mesothelioma, you need to, whether or not you were in the service, or maybe you were never around asbestos, but if you've had a diagnosis, you really need to do something about that.
Wow, and the reason that you've seen so many things on TV, and the reason that we're talking about this right now, there is a lot of money that has been put aside for this.
Yes. Even though a lot of the asbestos companies have declared bankruptcy, there was $30 billion, and that's billion. $30 billion that was put aside in a trust to handle these claims and compensate people. I believe the average asbestos mesothelioma case settles for around, and it's a claim, settles for between $1 to $2 million. And that's usually without filing a lawsuit, not always, and every case is different, so we need to say that. There are jury verdicts out there that are much higher than that. Some are, you know, 5 to 10 million, and I think there is a record out there that's over 200 million. So you just need to know that there's money set aside to take care of you, take care of your family, take care of your loved ones if you've had this diagnosis.
Okay, now let's talk about how soon you need to file for this. Is it from when you get diagnosed, or what's the deal here?
Yes, so when you're diagnosed, there's a 2-year statute of limitations in the state of Iowa. It's going to be different probably for state to state, but if you live here and you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma, you really have about 2 years. Okay. And so we tell people that 2 years really is a cutoff. There might be an argument to make it longer, but as soon as you're diagnosed, you really need to reach out to an attorney that knows about these claims and knows how to handle them.
Okay, like Kim Baer, people want to get a hold of you and just get the first step started. What can they do?
Yeah, just give us a call, 515-INJURED or 515-279-2000. These are cases that we're happy just to have a cup of coffee, and the attorney fees are always contingent, so it won't cost you anything.
Okay, so you know, terrible thing that happens to people because of things that happened decades and decades ago. Yeah. But there is some assistance available for families.
There is, and we'd be happy to help.
Wonderful. Kim, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
Lou.
All right, we'll be right back. This is Iowa Live.